Subscribe or they will haunt you. What is your favorite, very creepy fact? Abraham Lincoln's personal guard went out for a drink a few hours before his assassination. He met a man there that was extremely jittery. The man was famed actor John Wilkes Booth. Eyewitnesses said the Booth was tense and wasn't sure he could do it. Nobody knew what he was going to do, but because he was such a famous actor, people helped him to calm his nerves. The personal guard and Booth had a few drinks together and soon left for the theater. Later that same night, Booth assassinated Abraham Lincoln while the personal guard was there on duty. The RMS Titanic's sister ship, the HMHS Britannic, hit a mine and sank. The captain decided to hold the lowering of the lifeboats and try to beach the ship on nearby Key Island. He eventually ordered for the lifeboats to be lowered and stop the ship's engines. However, before the order was given, a couple of lifeboats were launched while the ship was still moving. Some of these lifeboats on the port side moved towards the propellers, and what resulted was a bit of a blender situation, ultimately killing 30 people. This is a very basic description of what happened, so I'm sorry if any of this is wrong. The bodies of the sailors who died on the Edmund Fitzgerald are still down there, almost perfectly preserved, due to the water at that depth being just barely above freezing. Divers who have explored the wreckage have seen their bodies frozen in place to parts of the ship, and have come back reporting that they feel as if they were being followed during their time underwater. Photos were taken, but per the request of the crew's family, they have never been released to the public. The children's story of the Pied Piper of Hamelin was based on a real event. Hamelin town records start with this event. The earliest written record is from the town chronicles in an entry from 1384 which states, "It is 100 years since our children left. No one know what or who took the children. But there's records of the entire town's children being taken." I actually did some research into this. Historians believe the children were not taken as in kidnapped. No mysterious man grabbed all the children and took off. Instead, an illness probably spread which mostly impacted children who have a weaker immune system and are not as strong. The illness probably killed most, if not all, of the children. Botflies. The very fact that they exist is more than creepy. See, these little bastards are parasitic. By that I mean they bite an animal or human to inflict an open wound and proceed to inject their eggs into the wound. The larvae that hatch feed on the host while the host is alive until they mature enough to fly and continue the circle. Oh, and there's usually multiple larvae at a time that leave craters in the host's body. When a person is electrocuted in the electric chair, they feel everything. They are fully aware of their bodies being fried as it happens in real time. One inmate who survived the first round of electrocution said it tasted like cold peanut butter. That's actually not too far from the truth. When it came to the first electrocution, they basically slow roasted the first inmate on the chair till he thankfully passed away, and the room where it took place stank of fried human flesh. As time went on, they were able to dial it into where it would cause the least amount of pain to the inmate. But the first few electrocutions were brutal. Cotard's delusion is a rare psychiatric condition, severe cases of which cause the sufferer to wholeheartedly believe they are dead, putrefying, or simply do not exist. Some Cotard's patients refuse to eat, as they do not believe they need to, with one notable patient dying of starvation. Another woman once asked to be taken to a morgue to be with the other dead people. Mathematically, it is possible that somewhere scattered around the universe exists a number of living beings that resemble you, but with slight differences. Technically they are not copies, but if one of these beings were to take your place, nobody would notice. During the Victorian era, it was not uncommon for families to take pictures with recently deceased relatives. This was done as one final moment with that person to honor them. We actually have some old family pictures like that. My dad told me that usually old pictures of people are not perfectly clear because people would still move a little bit during the time it took to take the photo. But if someone appears very clearly, that is they were sitting perfectly still, that might very likely be because they were dead when the photo was taken. Creeped me out for sure. While filming the movie, The Exorcist, many actors got injured. The set burned down. A priest was brought in several times to bless the set, and the actor who played Burke, Jack McGoran, died of influenza. Just so you guys know, The Exorcist, a supernatural horror film directed by William Friedkin, was based on the 1971 novel of the same name by William Peter Blatty, which was in turn inspired by the exorcism case of Rolando, a pseudonym given to the victim by the Catholic Church. The 1973 film portrays the demonic possession of a 12-year-old girl. The story revolves around how the mother of the child attempts to seek normalcy in her daughter's life with the help of two priests who conduct exorcism. From its onset, the film went through troubled waters. Prestigious directors not only turned down the film, but ominous events surrounded the year-long shoot. Nearly 9 people died who were associated with the production of the film, and a mysterious fire destroyed the set one weekend. People started to believe that the project itself were cursed. A priest was brought in several times on the set to bless the film, its actors and the project. However, as if all the tragedies during the filmmaking process were not enough, that just after the work was wrapped up, the actor who played Burke in the film died of influenza. I saw a news story on a woman with a rare type of epilepsy that causes her to see everything like a slidder shower, a video game that gets 10 FPS. She described watching cars drive by and saying they freeze in place for a moment and then snap into position further down the road over and over. Her entire life is played out in front of her eyes in still frames, and because of that she wears blinders or earmuffs, because her senses are constantly contradicting one another, and it overwhelms her. I can't imagine how horrifying it would be to experience life like she does. Somewhat recently, 2012, scientists discovered over 1,400 new species of bacteria living in the belly button. Everyone's belly button ecology is unique, added to the fingerprints and snowflakes list. In that same study, one volunteer's belly button harbored bacteria strands that had only ever been found in soil from Japan, where this man has never been. There is a rare genetic disease called fatal familial insomnia where over the course of months you literally cannot go or be put to sleep, no matter what you take or what you do. The symptoms get progressively worse until finally you stay awake watching yourself go insane until you die from exhaustion. There is a guy by the name of Rikard Syajan who documented this genetic disease on YouTube. And with each video you can tell his mental state gets worse and worse. It eventually gets so bad that his last videos are just weird conspiracy theories. And, as expected from a disease with no cure, he sadly passed away before he started suffering from it, since it can sit in your genetic code for years without you noticing. He was an artist. May he rest in peace. Edit. Peace not peace. Fuck autocorrect. And also he apparently got it from an antibiotic he took, instead of it just being in his genetic code for years, because the dumbest that I am, I didn't read the description. Indian followers of the Zoroastrianism don't bury or burn their dead. Instead they leave the bodies in special towers, exposed to the element, to be eaten by vultures. Unfortunately the vultures are now endangered, leaving the bodies to slowly rot. If you stare at the mirror in the dark long enough, your brain starts to make your eyes see things, usually transforming you or the room into something horrifying, more usually monsters. This is called peripheral fading, or the Traxler effect. There was a man from France, named Terra, 1772-1798, who couldn't stop eating. By the time he was 17, his parents kicked him out. He was eating his own body weight in food daily at the time when he enlisted in the army. The army rations just couldn't satisfy him. Often, he would sneak out at night and search for offal in the garbage in the gutters. He was hospitalized, doctors trying to find a cure, but at night he would raid the morgue. Scientists unable to stop his ability to eat almost anything began to study it. They'd feed him such random things as eels. He'd swallow whole lizards, a kitten and puppies, all of which he ate alive. When a 14-month-old baby disappeared, he was chased from the hospital by an angry mob. He later died of tuberculosis. While most parents do what they can to prevent or stop their babies from crying, that's not always the case in Japan. That's because it's a 400-year-old Japanese tradition that, if a sumo wrestler can make your baby cry, it means he or she will live a healthy life. During a special ceremony, parents hand over their infants to sumo wrestlers who bounce their precious tots up and down, and sometimes even roar in their little faces to get the tears flowing. He's not a baby that cries much, but today he cried a lot for us, and we are very happy about it, Mother Mishide said at a 2014 event. When your organs are taken out of your body for abdominal surgery, they don't get placed back in carefully or specifically. You just put all the organs back in, and the body sorts itself out. On top of that, some people are born with a condition called situs inversus, in which all their organs are a mirror image of what is normal. Having this automatically disqualifies you from being in the military. If the heat death of the universe turns out to be correct trillions of years from now, rather than a big crunch, then it will reach a point of absolute entropy and time as we understand it will have no meaning. On a long enough timeline, once stars stop forming, because gas and dust particles become too rare/scattered to form a sufficient mass to produce fusion, the existing stars will slowly, gradually, exit their main sequence and become red/hypergiants, then collapse to dwarf stars. Eventually even the dwarfs, the faintest light in the universe, will blink out, their matter consumed by black holes. Many trillions of years of Hawking radiation will bleed away even the black holes until everything reaches a state of unending changelessness. No physical processes will exist to mark the difference between one moment to the next. No biological or chemical reactions. No atoms and no movement and no light. Time as a linear concept will not exist, because nothing will exist that could justify the presence or effects of time.